Good morning. Good morning. Give me just a second to hit the go live in the different places. Here we go. And all right, waiting for everything to pop up where it's supposed to be. Make sure we are live. All right, it says we are, but I'm going to check one more thing just to be on the safe side. And where are we? For everything to pop up where it's supposed to be. Here we go. All right. Perfect. So I'm super excited to be here with you this morning. And this has kind of been a conversation I've been having a lot lately about our belief system. And for some reason, it feels like it's the still the thing that is being called to be talked about. So if you've heard me talk about this before, it's okay, right? Because it always comes out just a little bit different every single time I talk about it. And maybe there'll be a new epiphany that comes up for you. So let's get honest. Where did that thought come from? We rarely question our thoughts because they've been running the show for so long, right? But what if instead of defaulting to this is just who I am, and how many times have you said that or heard someone else say that, right? That's just who I am, right? You pause and you ask yourself, whose voice is this really? And when did I first start believing that about myself? What proof do I actually have now that it's still true? And most of the time, it's not your truth. It wasn't true back then, and it's not true now. But we've internalized it. We've made that who we are. It's usually someone else's fear projected onto us in a moment when we were absolutely too young, too vulnerable, and too trusting to fight back, right? And let's face it, one of the things that I always talk about is how children do not get sarcasm. So a lot of times things are said in jest, in sarcasm, to other adults maybe. They don't even know the kids are listening, that you were listening, but you were. And to you, it wasn't sarcasm. An adult said it about you. It had to be true, right? But let's think about that. You're not that version of you anymore, and you probably never were. It just felt like it, right? And the thing is that when you as a child take on the identity of something that someone has said, and one of the things that I think is interesting, like if there's a family that has like several children, and they don't say it necessarily to the kids, but they might. You're my smart one. You're the artistic one. But they say it to adults all the time, and kids hear things we do not even realize. I remember one time when my son was little, and I was having a conversation on the phone with someone, and I said something about him, and I don't even recall what it was. And he came over and looked at me and said, "What did you just say?" And he was only like 4, you know. I didn't think he was listening. He was playing. He was actually in another room. But the thing is, he was listening. And I, in my innocence, is that the right word? I don't know. My inability to understand that he could hear what I was saying and that maybe I wasn't being supportive of him. I'm sure it was something about his behavior because at that time in his life, he was in trouble a lot at school, at camp, and all these things. So I probably was saying something about his behavior. And it might not have been the first time. It was the time he heard it and actually asked me a question. And so just think about it. There's times when you were little that somebody might have said something. Maybe it was a supportive thing, but a lot of the times it's not. I remember when I was little, I would get the comparison thing about one of my sisters. Why don't you act more like so and so? Why don't you look weight wise more like so and so? Because I always struggled with my weight. And so it always, and I had this comparison thing all the time that where I was wasn't good enough. Now, that is not what anybody that said anything meant with what they were doing. Maybe it was like, let me try to think. With my sister, both of them very brilliant. They didn't really have to study. They just seemed to know things and just absorb it, you know. And I did that somewhat, but not to the degree that they could. I always felt a little inadequate on that. So it was probably something about that. And then just recently, I said something to one of my sisters about how her and my other sister are so good, so studious, and can learn so easily and everything. Then I've never felt that way. And she said, Vicki, that's not true. She said, you do. She said, you're taking classes all the time and you're always learning. You're always teaching me something, right? So even just recently, it came to my attention that I had a voice in my head that wasn't true. So maybe there's something going on in you that you are not even aware of. So we want to talk now about the shift, rewriting the narrative. You don't need to gaslight yourself with toxic positivity. I mean, positivity is great, but there's a thing about your subconscious mind and your conscious mind that will kind of put the brakes on things. If you make statements that sound so far out of realm that it's unbelievable. So like if you're a person that makes $100,000 a year and you say, this year I'm going to make $1 million. There may be a part of you that believes that, but the majority of your mind says bullshit, right? And so sometimes we have to rephrase things, and I talk about this a lot. We have to rephrase things so it's more believable. So in the instance where it's like, I make $100,000 now and I want to make $1 million, you can say, I am on track. I am gaining traction toward $1 million. So there's ways that you can say it to your conscious and subconscious mind to make it not suddenly say bullshit, right? So you need to choose a thought that honors the truth of who you are now and can think forward into who you really are in the future, which is really your now too, right? That's a whole nother conversation. But sorry, you can try this. So like if you're a person that says, I always mess things up. Have you ever said that to yourself? I can never get it right. I always mess this up. You could always change that to I'm learning faster every time, and that's progress. Now, you're not saying in there that I'm brilliant and I never make mistakes, because that's not realistic for anybody, right? I mean, they can be brilliant, but everybody makes mistakes. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. So looking at the mistakes or the things you perceived as a mistake in your life, it would help you to look at that and say, I learned something. And then say what you learned. And it makes it a valuable thing, a valuable tool that you now have in your toolbox. Right? Make sense? And what if you said, I'm not disciplined? I mean, I've said that to myself before because I had this to-do list a mile long, and then I would find myself procrastinating somewhere, whether it was I just wanted to go sit outside, but that's really not procrastinating. But I looked at it that way at the time because I had this list to do, right? So if you ever said, I'm not disciplined enough to get this done, maybe you could change that. I haven't had the right support system until now. Because see, this group that we're in, this live that we're doing right now, that's a support system. You can go to masterminds, you can join groups, you can have coaching, you can have one-on-one coaching. I provide all of those things too. So if there's anything that you feel the call to with moving forward with actually a support system, I'm here for you. Maybe you've caught yourself saying, I don't belong here. Let me check and see what we got on. I don't want to make sure I'm not leaving anybody out if anybody's asking questions. Maybe you've said, I don't belong here. I recently had a hypnosis client that I was working with. And one of the things that he was battling with was that he would go to certain places, like for a mastermind, or he would go to not necessarily a networking thing, but a big meeting of a group of people. And a lot of times he felt like he didn't belong there, that he didn't know as much as they did, or he wasn't as experienced as they were. He didn't make as much money as they did. He had a lot of these things going on in his mind, right? So his thought when he was around certain people, I mean, there were even certain people that he knew that he felt were way more advanced than him. And so he struggled with that thought. But the thing that is important, I want to ask you, because see, the thing is, if every room you go into, you feel like you're the smartest Joe there, you're the smartest, the make more money or just as much as the top person, all of these things, if you're feeling so confident in that place, you're in the wrong room. Because we should always be stretching out of this space of exactly where we are. So that is what we're rephrasing. Instead of saying, I don't belong here, it's I'm expanding into places that stretch me, and that's growth. So just celebrate. Anytime you walk into a space that you feel just a little bit small because they have it all together. Maybe it feels like they know so much. They're growing, they're in everything, right? Then you're in the right room. Because you can expand into those places because they stretch you, and that's growth, right? Doesn't that feel a lot better than I don't belong here? Remember, you want to make sure you're in the right room, right? So the affirmation that I have for today is, let me see if I can get over to my comments and share this out. Hold on a second. For a while I wasn't doing the affirmations in the journal prompts, but it seemed like everybody liked those so much that I decided to go ahead and put them back in, and it would help support you a little bit more. So let me see if all of that shows up. Yes, it does. So let me click and paste here. All right. So here is today's affirmation. I am not here to prove my worth. I am here to remember it. The thoughts that once protected me are no longer required to lead me. Now that's a little bit longer, but it's very powerful. Remember, anything that comes after the words I am are ultra powerful because you're claiming that as the truth of you. And so remember, you are not. I am not here to prove my worth. I'm here to remember it because you are worthy just because you are. But man, oh man, your life experiences and the things that you do and you think and you say and you help people with, no matter who you are amazing. And it's time to remember who you are and your worth. The thoughts that once protected me are no longer required to lead me. And and that's the thing that I didn't even mention earlier, but you may already know that all of these thoughts that we think that we feel are truth about who we are, that have plagued us or held us back, they were there to protect us about something. And it doesn't really matter right now what those things were. Let's just address how to flip the script and make it better. And then you can work on the deep dives at another time, right? So we don't have time to do that this morning. All right, so now our journal prompt. All right, let me get to it really quick. Hold on. Whoop. Take this away. Let's see if it all shows up. All right, so now I'm going to show you the journal prompt. It's a good one. What thought have I mistaken for truth that may actually be an old wound? What would my empowered present day self choose to believe instead? Isn't that intriguing, right? That's really thought-provoking. So what I would like to suggest you do, which is what I always recommend, is that you have a journal or a notebook, and I have a lot of people that have them specifically for this so that they can keep track of all of these affirmations in the journal prompts, and you put the date with it. And the reason we do that is because we want to be able to come back and look and see the changes that have occurred, our growth. Because remember, a 1% change every day creates exponential growth, but 1% in the moment is very insignificant. You can't even see it. There's one of my books that I really love is called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And I'm going to write a note so I can make sure I leave you the link. The Slight Edge. I was writing down the wrong title. And I'll put the link in the comments. And I will say it's my Amazon link, so I do get just a little piece of money for recommending it. It's not a lot, and it doesn't cost you anything. So if you would use my link, great. But if you feel uncomfortable for that for some reason, then just at least get the book. All right, so in The Slight Edge, there's a lot in there, but the thing that pertains to this right here is that one of the things he says is that an example, and I need to go reread it again because it's been a little while since I've read it, but this is my recollection, my memory of it, and if it's different from what it actually says in the book, just bear that in mind, right? I'm just telling you my remembrance of the actual conversation. Anyway, he says that if you have a person that eats a burger every day, the fries, the milkshake maybe, Coke, anything, but they eat it every day. The first day you don't notice a thing. You might not even notice any difference in a month, but in 3 months, 6 months, if you started getting blood work done, you started looking at the scales and everything, there's going to be a shift that you'll be able to see, but you can't see it in the beginning. And that's kind of how this works too, is that you start making a change, a 1% change every day. You don't notice it, neither does anybody else. But the thing is, and it's not like you're eating a burger every day, and so it's eventually going to show extra weight and everything on your body, or it's going to show markers in your blood work. A 1% change every day when it comes to internal growth sometimes isn't visible for a while in your outer atmosphere, right? So the thing is, you want to have a journal that you can look at, and then you can come back and say, wow, these are the things that I was thinking then. Look how far I've grown. Look how far I've come. And so we want to be able to have a measuring stick of the difference. And like one of the things I do for some of my clients that maybe sign on to me, like I have one client that she signed on for a year, and I've had clients that did 6 months, 3 months, but this one in particular did a year. And so I had a questionnaire for her to fill out in the beginning, and I do that with anybody that does at least 3 months or more. And so she filled out this form, and it asks you a lot of questions about who you are and what you're doing, what's important to you, and everything. And it's all the different areas of your life. And what that is a measuring stick too. So it gets your train of thought, what your thought pattern is, what's going on, what you think is going on. And then every quarter or at the end, depending on the time frame that you're with me, every quarter with this client, the clients that are a year long, I would have them fill it out again, and then we would compare the difference of the thought patterns and the difference of the aspirations that the person had. And it's so eye-opening. So that's why this is important. You want to be able to look at this and say, oh my gosh, look, last November, this was what I thought was important in my life. This is what I was thinking. And now look how different it is. So it's really, really important. So you write down the affirmation, the journal prompt, the date. And then my suggestion always is you want to tap into your intuition, your inner voice, your God voice, your subconscious mind when you're doing the journal prompts, especially, right? And because if you just write it down and then start writing, your conscious mind is what's feeding the information. And the conscious mind is a lot different. So we want to tap into what's really under the surface, right? So if you take 10 to 15 minutes in total silence, just focusing on your breath, focusing on sounds in the room, focusing on the moment, the present moment. And the thing that happens with most of us, especially in the beginning, is you focus on your breath, and all of a sudden you realize you're going on a tangent about what have you got to do for dinner? What are you going to be? I mean, we got Thanksgiving to come up. What are you going to be taking to the family thing for Thanksgiving? What are you going to do over the weekend? It'll be all these thoughts that are going on in your mind, and or your to-do list, whatever it is. And then you'll recognize it. So as soon as you do, then you come back to your breath. You breathe in, you breathe out, because you're not having to recite this in your mind. Your subconscious already knows what you're working on. And then after that 10 to 15 minutes is up, and you pick up the pen, your pencil, and you start writing, the things that will come out is amazing. So you don't judge, don't critique it, don't filter through, this is not important, that's not important. You write down everything, because our ingenious brain, our subconscious mind, is filled with code of things. And sometimes the code is there and we're not ready for it in the moment. We won't understand it, but we will if we come back later. But you want to write down whatever shows up, no matter how silly, no matter how far-fetched, how cringy, whatever it may be. Because what we're doing right now is, what thought have I mistaken for truth that may actually be an old wound? And if you're like most people, if you're like me, there's usually more than one, right? We always talk about we're the proverbial onion. So you peel back a layer and you get another layer and you get another layer. So just think about it. you write down what thoughts, maybe you can write down as many as come up. What thoughts, I should have put an S in there, have I mistaken for truth that may actually be an old wound? So, what would my empowered present day self choose to believe instead? So, you do the first part, and then after you've written them out, then you look at them, each one individually. What would my empowered present day self choose to believe instead? And just sit with it. So, what I would love for you to do is to drop one thought in the comments that you're ready to retire, get out of your world completely, and the empowering truth that you're ready to believe instead. And you see, the interesting thing is, we can rewrite this narrative together. And a lot of times, doing it on your own, it's like you can't see your own stuff. Somebody else can. And I will say, everyone that has come to me for any type of coaching, whether it's business, whether it's life, whether it's weight, hypnosis, everything, whatever it is that they think they need to work on, it's always, always something else. Because our beliefs, the things that we believe about ourselves, are the culprit. And then whatever's going on in your world is the symptom. So if you're ready to maybe go deeper and finally rewire these beliefs that keep looping in the background. So if you've ever said, I don't know why I keep doing this again. I don't know why this keeps happening to me. Why do I always procrastinate? Why do I always pick the wrong partner? Why do I always get to the end of the month and never have anything left? There's so many things that keep holding us back. I don't know for you what it is. And like I said, most people don't really know what's the underneath thing. There's a symptom that's there. So there's beliefs that you have looping in the background. So let's talk. I decided to open up a few more clarity calls for the rest of this month, and I will put a link into the comments for being able to get onto one of those clarity calls. It's my Calendly link, and you can go ahead and schedule something. I have 15 and 30-minute calls. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just offer up the 30-minute call for as a complimentary thing for you guys. And I would just love to have the conversation with you, because in that one conversation, that is complimentary, by the way, we might be able to, and usually do, we can uncover at least one belief that I can help you uncover. And then if you decide to work deeper, then that's great too. And if not, that's no big deal. That's entirely up to you. You know what you need. But what I like to say when it comes to coaching is that you can, as a person, can only see 20 feet in front of you. Kind of like when you're at night and you got the flashlight or you got the headlights of your car, right? But as a coach, we have a drone aerial view, and we can find out information from you, and then we can actually see where things need to swiftly turn to make a difference. And so if it feels like you would love to have that conversation, as I said, no obligation whatsoever, I would love to have that conversation with you. I will just put the link in the comments. You grab that link and get on there, because I don't know how many have already gone. And so definitely get on the list and let's talk. All right. So I hope this was helpful for you today. And I hope that, I hope that it has been helpful for you, because that's my main goal, is to be able to be here to help you and take it deeper if you want. But that's entirely up to you. All right. So have an amazing day filled with clarity on what's true in your mind. Love you guys.